This is verse 2, the 18th chapter, Gospel of Matthew. The disciples have just put the question to Jesus, who's the greatest in the kingdom? And of course they're thinking in political terms. They're thinking Jesus is going to establish an earthly kingdom with all kinds of appointments and offices and various kinds of privileged positions that will go along with this kingdom. And Jesus, of course, turns that whole expectation on its head, as we see in verse 2. So kai, the connective, proskalesomenos. This is from proskaleomai. Of course, it's the idea of calling, kaleo, the pros, to call to. The middle voice, the proskaleomai, means to call to oneself, would be the idea, kind of a reflexive notion. This is a aorist participle, middle voice, of course, for that idea of calling to oneself, masculine singular nominative, telling us it goes along with the subject of the sentence, which is Jesus, not mentioned, but obviously the subject from the prior verse. So this is aorist, so having called to himself, paidion, this is the word for child, not an infant, but a small child, probably a child that would be in the range of 5 to 10 years old, maybe something like that. So we called a child, and then estesen from histemi. It means to stand. This is the third person singular, aorist active indicative. So he stood. Auto, neuter, of course going along with child here, which is neuter, so stood the child. It, literally, but probably a boy is in view here. So having called a child, he stood him. In, preposition, takes the dative in meso. Meso is a noun. It means midst of. So in midst, in the middle, is the idea, auton, of them. So Jesus takes this little child. So far from what the disciples were expecting, they were probably fully confused and flummoxed by such a development, as Jesus takes this child to make dramatic the point that he wants to drive home to them now.